Hey guys, so there's quite a few list videos for 100%ing Xbox games on the internet, and they're generally fall into two categories, which is, I think, the easiest to complete and the fastest to complete. So I thought it might be a bit interesting if I did a list about the 15 funnest Xbox completions. Granted, this is just my personal opinion. These are the games I found the most fun to reach 100% completion. If I missed any of your favourites, or if you disagree with my choices, let me know in the comments below. Bully Scholarship Edition is a fantastic game where you become the king of the school by beating up your competition using deviousness, pranks, and your fists until you reign supreme. The game wasn't without controversy, with Ohio's village idiot Jack Thompson, a so-called activist lawyer, stating that Bully was a Columbine simulator, which is a tad much, I feel. He also wrote a letter of complaint to the ESRB when he discovered that there was an option for the lead male character to kiss other boys, only to end up with massive amounts of egg on his face when they told him that they were aware of the content and stood 110% behind the age classification they'd already given it. Bully was originally released in 2006 on the PS2, and I was beyond stoked when it was re-released on the 360 in 2008, complete with achievements. Having already completed it on the PS2, it was no trouble at all to blast it out on the 360, and it was damn good fun to revisit a classic. I'm really gutted that it never got a sequel. On a brief side note, ironically, also in 2008, Thompson was disbarred for false statements and humiliating litigants, so I guess he was right. Bullies never prosper. Murdered Soul Suspect is a game I've completed on both the 360 and the One. I enjoy playing it that much. Granted, some sections of the storyline are hidden by large quantities of collectibles, but they're really not all that hard to find, and especially easy if you slap up a guide on your phone as you play along. The storyline has all sorts of fun B-movie twists and turns, and the gameplay is enjoyable enough that it can sustain your interest for the length of the game. It involves things like being able to possess police officers investigating the case you're working on in order to find out the information they know. There's even several points in the game where you can possess a cat in order to reach hard-to-reach places. Really, Murdered Soul Suspect is a trifecta Xbox game in that it is fun to play, it's easy to play, and it's fast to play. So, what more could you ask for? So, minor confession, I am 110% obsessed with the Tony Hawk skateboarding games. I have played every single one of them. I even trawled around on eBay for I think about 2 months trying to pick up a Game Boy... a Game Boy Advanced, in order to play the games that were released on that as well. I was overjoyed when my favourite Hawk game was remastered for the 360. It's just sublime from beginning to end. A banging soundtrack, banging gameplay. It's a pretty easy achievement list, especially if you've played Hawk games before. Just full to the brim with skate legends, skate culture, skate history, graffiti. Just American Wasteland, I think, is probably the best Tony Hawk's game ever released, so it's both an enjoyable game and an old-school classic to play, and definitely deserving on a top games to complete list. So, it's not really an achievement list if Minecraft doesn't show up at some point. Minecraft Xbox One Edition has an achievement list that's fairly easy, it's just incredibly time consuming, unless of course you have a friend with a bunch of achievement worlds all set up for you to jump in and piggyback off all of their hard work. With Minecraft Bedrock Edition being released, support to the One version has ended, which means the achievement list won't be getting more add-ons, so I guess that makes it easier, but it's a little disappointing that they decided not to continue supporting it. It's a lengthy but fun journey towards another completion, and I think I'd be remiss not to add it on. Sleeping Dogs is another game I've completed on the 360 and the One. It originally started its life as a new game in the True Crime franchise, but it was sold to Square Enix, with 95% of the game having already been completed. Square Enix chose not to spend any extra money and dropped the True Crime name, not that it matters because Sleeping Dogs absolutely slaps. It's a very enjoyable sandbox romp through the criminal underworld. The One version comes with all the DLC on disc, which means you can enjoy the meme-worthy joy of dressing your character in a police officer uniform as he desperately tries to convince gangsters that he isn't an undercover officer. Classic.
You guys smell something? I do. 这只食屎嘅老鼠. You know what happens to rats, Wade?
Yeah, I heard. Conroy gave me all the details when he was helping me out on that mini.
You so singer! Who the fuck do you think you are, huh? You come in out of nowhere and suddenly our guys start to get arrested?
Thomas Was Alone is an indie puzzle platformer about a series of AI programs in two-dimensional shapes such as squares and rectangles, and they're going through a bit of an existential crisis. They're attempting to escape the software program that they're trapped in, and in order to do that, they have to scale up platforming elements, but to make it more interesting, their shape determines how they can tackle the environment that they've been placed in, with the end goal being to escape the program into the real world. It's narrated by Danny Wallace, who you might also know as Sean in the Assassin's Creed series. It features a BAFTA-winning storyline, and having an easy achievement list to boot really is a must-play game. Slime Rancher is essentially a farming game, but instead of crops, it's adorable balls of sentient slime. There are multiple different slime types, and they can only be found in their own specific regions, and with the ability to breed the slimes, you can make dozens of different hybrid types. But watch out, because the more explosive the type of slime, the higher chance they have of escaping the pens you put them in, or even accidentally breeding with other slimes. The 1k is a little on the longer side to complete, but honestly, hoovering up slimes into your backpack to bring them home with you is so addictive, time will just fly by. Oxenfree features an incredibly original storyline and gameplay mechanic. The characters of Oxenfree go to a small local island to celebrate graduating from high school, only to find themselves trapped in a time loop. The puzzle elements of the game require you to recognise when you've been stuck in a loop and free yourself, with of course the ultimate goal being to escape the main time loop. It's once you finish the game for the first time that this loop mechanic really becomes that much more interesting. The second time you play, you unlock new dialogue options, and you even better understand things that were said to you the first time round. It's almost like the game was having a conversation with you, but you only had half of the information available. So the second time round, you better understand when they're talking about time loops and things you've already done before. The more you play, the more you realise it's very likely that the characters have been trapped in this loop for a lot longer than you think they have, and certainly longer than the length of time it takes you to join the game and play it and finish it. The achievement list requires you to play the game at least 3 times, but honestly the story and mythology is so good, it'll never feel like a grind. Stick of Truth is another game that I've completed on the 360 and the One, thus is the power of South Park's potty humour. The jokes are just as good the second time round, and the gameplay is still dynamic and interesting. The length of the game is great too, it never outstays its welcome. In terms of an easy completion, it depends on how you want to tackle the achievement list. You can bust them all out in one run through. It'll be a little harder, but it saves you a second playthrough of the game. It's a shame really that the follow-up, Fractured Butthole, was an obvious cash grab, although arguably that too has an easy 1k list, but it's nowhere near as fun as the Stick of Truth to complete, and it just really doesn't feel like the same amount of effort was put into making it funny. The Saboteur easily has one of the most inventive art styles of any game I've ever played. Set in a German-occupied France, your job is to help liberate France from Nazi control. The Nazi-controlled areas of the world, when you enter them, you can only see them in black and white, the only colour being the ominous and frightening splash of the red of a Nazi swastika, your own blood, and the reassuring blue of the resistance movement. Once you liberate an area, the colour returns, and it feels just so triumphant, taking over each piece of the map, liberating the Parisians, and getting rid of all of the Nazis. With over 1,000 free-play events and a large list of perks to unlock for your character, The Saboteur is another lengthy completion, but it's definitely up there as one of the best open-world games ever released. Saints Row 4 is, ironically, the 4th game on this list that I've completed on both the 360 and the One. Fan opinion on Saints Row Re-Elected is divided. With its odd start in life as DLC for the 3rd Saints Row game, it eventually got so large that the developers decided to release it as its own game. This meant that while the storyline suffered somewhat, the gameplay was more fun than it's ever been in a Saints Row game. Flying around the city, attacking aliens with your superpowers, and using ridiculously overpowered weaponry, Saints Row 4 feels more like the love child of Infamous and Prototype than it does your usual Saints Row game. It is a blast from beginning to end, with only a handful of grindy achievements, and it leaves fans of the series asking, when the hell is Saints Row 5 coming out, guys? A Rockstar classic that is the last on this list that I've bust out on the 360 and the One. You play as Cole Phelps, an officer for the LAPD after World War II. You work your way up the ladder, being given more and more complicated cases to solve. Great gameplay, which involves finding clues and questioning suspects, with an even better storyline, and featuring what was at the time absolutely revolutionary facial capturing software. It makes LA Noire a pulpy cult classic. Granted, there were some rough edges, especially in terms of suspect questioning.
What do you do for work, Jacob?
I'm a mechanic. Engines, differentials, transmissions, that kind of stuff.
So you have access to tools.
Yes, I do.
Your wife was brutally beaten with a socket wrench handle, then stomped to death. How do you think that looks, Jacob?
I was home in bed.
You're full of shit, Jacob. The truth is you hated that bitch. You followed her and dragged her into the car and then took her out to the moors. She woke up and you smashed her face in with a socket wrench.
No. No.
And then you stomped her. You stomped her because she's a drunken whore and she treated you like shit. You stomped her for all the years you had to take it. You stomped her because you are such a weak fucking sister, Jacob, and you wanted to erase all memory of it. Go on, try to deny it.
I was at home. I should have gone to her at the bar, but I didn't. You can't prove I wasn't home.
Looks like I made a mistake.
But that doesn't stop LA Noire from being one of the best games Rockstar's ever made. If you've never played it before, I'd recommend the 1 version as it comes with all the DLC and the gameplay on the same disc. The 360 version is spread across 3 discs, and I can remember the annoyance of going back to 100% it, only to have to swap out the disc I'd put in because the case I needed was on disc 3 and I'm on disc 1. Annoying, so play it on the 1. I will readily admit that much like the Tony Hawk skateboarding games, I am obsessed with the Mirror's Edge universe. The first game was mind-blowing, with gameplay being more reliant on movement than fighting, with the sole goal being to reach your target in the fastest way possible. Mirror's Edge was revolutionary for its time, and forced other games to include much more movement in their own gameplay. However, the first game was unfortunately weighed down by crappy and unnecessary combat, and it was quite linear. Fans hoped that the sequel would expand on the great gameplay and remove the rougher edges in its sequel. It took DICE 8 years to come out with the next game, with fans being left divided on how they felt about the new offering. Personally, I absolutely loved it. An open-world Mirror's Edge is all I wanted from the first game, and honestly the freedom of movement to run, jump, roll, twist, and absolutely fling myself anywhere I wanted to go was well worth the price of admission. The 1K list is pretty easy, especially if you've already played the first game, so you have no excuse not to have played it. Ah, Sunset Overdrive, the love child of Doom, Saints Row and Tony Hawk's Pro Skating. Featuring balls-to-the-walls action with cheeky innuendo, jokes, puns and all assortments of hilarity. This game is a tour de force from beginning to end. The gameplay is pretty much shooting monsters, or rather people mutated into energy drinks. Yes, really. While skating around the world on rails, wires and other parts of the scenery. The idea is to defeat your enemies in the fastest, most acrobatic way possible in order to earn high scores. Granted, Sunset Overdrive might be harder to complete now as it has a handful of online achievements and I'm really not sure what the state of the community is anymore. I think it still deserves its place on this list as an underrated, absolutely fun cult classic. Okay, so this entry is cheating a little considering the vast amounts of Assassin's Creed games there are, but let's just say I'm a total slut for the Animus. With Assassin's Creed 1, 2, Liberation, Unity, Syndicate, Origins, and 3 remastered 100% completions on my gamer profile, there are plenty of Gs to be earned in the Assassin's Creed universe. Fantastic gameplay where you can parkour to the top of famous monuments, romp through history assassinating well-known historical figures, or simply just running down collectibles and busting out side missions. There is no end to the amount of things you can get up to in an Assassin's Creed game, especially in the later games. Odyssey is absolutely humongous. If you have the time to spend, most Assassin's Creed games feature pretty easy achievement lists, excluding the ones with unnecessary online game modes, although I will admit, I wouldn't say no to an Assassin's Creed Battle Royale game. So there you have it guys, my top 15 most fun Xbox 360 or Xbox One 100% completion games. As I said at the beginning, let me know if you agree or disagree with any of my picks in the comments down below, and feel free to check out our other videos. Thanks for watching guys!